Hey everyone, so my topic for this lecturette is online workplace communication. I picked this topic because there's social media and technology these just keeps growing, and this is influence in my everyday life at work, as well as I'm sure most other people are using online communication in their workplace as well. I did a little bit of research through the Hartness Library to figure out the background of online communication with the advantages and disadvantages. So I found a few different sites that was able to help me understand that a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through what those findings were, as well as use my own examples to kind of tie it all together. So essentially what communication in the workplace is, how people speak their thoughts and ideas and how they kind of portray them. So communication can be anywhere from just assigning a task to someone all the way to having a difficult conversation of having to fire someone. So it can be on either end of the spectrum. It can be just smiling as someone walks by just to show that you're friendly and to hopefully have a good relationship with them in the future, at least a good working relationship. Communication is usually passed down through leadership. So in my findings, I found the few different types of leaderships, and I just want to talk about those and what I've kind of experienced with them as well. One of the type of leaderships is authoritative, and with that, the person in that position usually makes all the decisions. They communicate to subordinates by just giving commands, handing out tasks, and they are very focused on tasks themselves. They're making sure that everything is done in a timely manner and that everything gets submitted on or before its due date. I've dealt with this type of leadership in a banking environment, as I worked there for quite a few years in my early career, but I've always found that making sure that people get their stuff done is a definite advantage to a business. Sometimes the authoritative can be a little too authoritative and they can come off as cold or mean. So there's always a fine line with that, but I think definitely some sort of authoritative leadership should be in communication. Another type is democratic communication. So that one encourages inputs from others. They allow the subordinates to help make the decisions. They want to have two-way conversations. They want to know their own opinions and why they think certain things should happen. So with that, I think that's a good thing too, because then the subordinates and the lower level employees feel as though they're being heard by their bosses and managers, and hopefully encourage them to try harder and work towards the one goal of the business, which is to succeed. So especially when their voice is being heard, they feel like they actually have a say in things. Another type of leadership is a laissez-faire. So that's more of a leader that's hands-off, doesn't really make any of the hard decisions. They kind of just leave it to other people to make. I feel as though I haven't really had that type of leadership in my life, at least in my career. I know there's some times where people had told me that their boss just hangs back. They're just really there to be there in case something goes wrong. So it also makes some of the subordinates, makes them work harder. And they may feel underappreciated because they're the ones doing all the hard work, whereas the managers are the ones getting paid more money, typically. So that definitely has a fine line there. I mean, you want to allow your employees to do their job and get that done, so you need to communicate there and make sure that they are on the same page as you when it comes to what type of manager you're going to be, and make sure that they feel appreciated and that their time is worth the money that they're getting paid. And then the last type of leadership I found was the bureaucratic leadership, and that one just leads by rules and regulations. So they're kind of there just reading the rule book. They don't really see any gray area. They say it's A or B. There's no really in between. So I think a mixture of all four of those types of leaderships is good in a manager, especially with communication, because that way they can let their employees be heard, but also make sure that tasks are being done and they're being focused on in a timely manner. With online communication in the aspect of those types of leaderships, it can be very difficult, only because you don't really have that one-on-one communication in person with the person. It can take a little time to get the things done, especially without someone right there kind of going through with you. There can be a lot of communication back and forth. It can take longer that way. Or if someone doesn't see an email or a post or something, then it's definitely gonna not have that time frame in mind. I think that with that type of leadership, the online communication could be good, only because it's a little easier to kind of assign tasks. You can send out one email to 5 different people and say, this is what needs to be done. Talk amongst yourselves to perform this and get it finished. Or you could even, in that email of those 5 people, assign the tasks individually and then hope that they all get completed on time, and then you'll be able to tell which one of the workers is actually doing what you assign them to do in a timely manner. Granted, they don't have anything else going on at the time. Communication, even though it's, people sometimes think of it in the workplace as a manager to a subordinate, it can also be within coworkers. So on the same level and even on different levels. So it's really how they're going to divide the work that gets assigned to them if they do get that one lump email and say this all needs to be done by 5 o'clock today, how they can divide that work and make sure it gets done in a timely manner. So they need to be able to communicate through that email or in a chat room saying that their part of the section is done or they need this from that other person. So definitely being able to show them where their information is coming from and what they need to complete the rest of their stuff. They also need to notice what strengths other employees have. Some people could be more artistic, some people could be more organizational, some people could be better with the production of it, where others are better with organizing how it's going to get done. So definitely working with your coworkers and using those strengths, you need to have communication, and whether it being online or in person, it doesn't really matter at that point. I know at my work we have a few different chat rooms where instead of having to email or anything like that, we can just go in the chat room and talk to the person. That's really anyone who's sitting next to us or anyone in a different office building. And that way it's easier to reach out to people. You get kind of a direct response. You know that you sent it. You have record that you sent it. So if anything was to come back on you, it's a little easier to prove that you actually were trying to get your job done and doing it in the correctly. Something that could be bad with the new online communication is that people can hide behind a computer. So someone can say, well, I did this, and they actually didn't complete it thoroughly or the correct way, or they can just respond in a rude way and say that they don't think someone's good at that. So it can be a little difficult to make sure that you are being respectful to your other coworkers and making sure that you say it in a nice manner. So really what I would want people to take away from this is that with online communication in the workplace, there are advantages and different disadvantages to communicating online. One definitely is that paper trail that says that you talk to that person about that, especially if you're need to reprimand someone or getting tasks done. You can show that you did send it on a certain day and at a certain time, and then you have that for your records. And also another thing that I would want to take away from this research that I did is that technology is just going to keep on growing, and online communication is just going to get even more difficult because of all the social media sites and everything. So it's always good to just kind of take a step back and know that you can always have face-to-face conversation with someone. You don't have to do it online every single time. That there's other options for you. So I hope that helped some of you realize with online communication at the workplace, and make sure that if you have any questions, through the Hartness Library, I just searched workplace communication and it brought up so many different resources, articles, journals, newspaper, and I just used those to kind of really gain my understanding, as well as my own experiences I was able to use in there. So, alright, thank you.